Welcome back to Berlin for Game 2 in this playoff matchup where Splyce have already taken a 1-0 lead over Misfits.
Yes, they have.
Yes, they have. And they did it pretty convincingly, too.
I mean, you're talking like Splyce have taken 1 game lead over Misfits. He looks at us and I'm like, yeah. Okay. I can confirm that this statement is factually correct.
I was hoping that you were eager. You know, you're going to like jump in. You're like, yes, and this is what I want to talk about. But all right. Let's talk about what I want to talk about. I want to talk about mental strain. We talked about Misfits as a young lineup.
Oh, yes. At this point, I also want to talk about mental strain, because
We'll drop it. We'll move on, because we're in picks and bans again, and for the most part, things remaining mostly similar. Fizz taken away once again on the side of Misfits. Orianna banned away on the side of Splyce. See if we see the same cacao focus this time.
Now, what I feel is that we're identifying a very limited champion pool for the side of Misfits. The fact that we saw Orianna, LeBlanc, and Ari all banned away from Power of Evil, something that he has been known for in the past is that he's really good at a select few champions, but when you tunnel bans onto him, he seems to struggle to find champions that can be best for his team. While the Victor pick in thought should be good, in practice it didn't quite work out as well as Misfits would have liked.
Are they just going to first pick Rengar here again? I mean, because look at the third ban. So Misfits, they enter the third ban with Elise and Lee Sin both open. They say, aha, I have a genius idea. I like 2 of these champions. I only need 1. I'm going to ban out the Elise and pick the Lee Sin. And then Splyce is like, haha, but no. We will actually ban the Lee Sin. No. In the whole spectrum, this leaves Misfits with only 1 really strong jungle left in the Rengar because the Graves has already been banned out. And I think our Splyce, they're happy because they just trade for Malzahar Kha'Zix here.
Yeah, I think this is a really good draft rotation from the side of Splyce. And now if you're Misfits, I'm surprised we're actually seeing less value on champions like the Rumble. A few weeks ago, Alfari was talking a lot about how he felt that Rumble was a champion that dominated in terms of top lane. You're forced to pick champions like the Gragas that can go into it. And with the Fizz banned away, you're also looking at a possible strong top laner that I think would better suit Alfari.
Yeah, personally here, I would like to see the Syndra just locked in on the side of Misfits. Because Orianna is one of the strong blind picks and she's banned out, and Power of Evil definitely has more impact in the games when he adds pressure to the mid lane himself and can disappear, and that could be definitely a good option for Syndra here.
I think you're opening yourself up then for Senkix to lock himself Echo. He has brought it out during the regular season. It is naturally a very good matchup into it, but instead they're just going to focus down on their bottom lane.
Interesting shift coming in from the Misfits. See how they adjust, see what they want to do. This time it's the Ashe, it's the Zyra. They say, we lost lane last time, not going to happen this time. And Splyce, no hesitation as they pick up that Syndra.
Yeah, they may actually remove that Echo in second ban phase, because if Senkix knows the strength of that pick into the Syndra and Orianna's out, I feel that could be a crux for them to lean on. Bottom lane will be rough for them. Ashe Zyra into the Malzahar should generate the push, especially if Misfits still have the option to eliminate 80 carries from the draft.
Yeah, I think you're looking at an Ezreal and a Caitlyn ban. Cobby has been playing a fair amount of Caitlyn recently, but taking him off those 2 champions, he'll then likely go towards a Varus, which is another ban. So he's at least going to get a reasonably ranged 80 carry that should hold its own for the time being and offer a possible all-in potential depending on what he goes for.
Ari banned away, another pick. The Power Eagle likes to get his hands on. You bring up the Echo. Well, it's not something that he has brought out yet this season. So if you want to see depth of champion pool, that's a great way to start it for this team. And Misfits, they don't want to taste the Shen on the opposite
Historically, side. It's taken quite a while for Power Eagle to pick up new champions. Eventually, he did it with the Rise. So he has shown that he can, after a while, pick up new champions. Splyce, quite interestingly, they don't put any value on the Echo counter pick themselves. They say, you know, Pewy can't play it, so we're just going to ban out Ari and LeBlanc. I wouldn't even mind seeing an early Nautilus for them here. Despite Wunder being such a proficient side lane carry player, I wouldn't mind seeing just a big old tank in the first rotation.
Well, I wonder if Splyce themselves go for the possible Rumble. I mean, there's always the Gragas that's available to them, but as you rightly said, Nautilus is a very well-rounded and safe top laner. They could also just go for their 80 carry right now, given that there was actually no 80 carry focus from the side of Misfits. You actually have a lot of freedom if you're Splyce. You can lock yourself either the Ezreal or the Varus. You have now a fair amount of wave control on the side of Splyce. The big issue that you're possibly going to have is that if Misfits set up for a 1-3-1, you're not going to have a huge number of answers, given that Syndra can't go off onto the side.
And then we have to question the draft strategy for Misfits here. In second phase, they ban out 2 top laners, a role that they are not currently squeezing, and that they're leaving the last pick to Splyce, right? So essentially, you remove 2 champions out of the pool, but you're still allowing yourself to potentially be counterpicked by Wunder, who has played Gragas into Rumble before, who has played quite a few champions.
Now we look at it. Counter pick, as you mentioned, up and available. But Misfits have to round out their composition here, and they have to do it with a pick for Power of Evil. How deep will the champion pool go? Will he find that side lane split pusher like Echo?
I feel like he's going to go towards the Vladimir. I just think that it's a champion that he has brought out in the past. The matchup is fine. It offers good teamfight value. It can follow up nicely. Alternatively,
yeah, Cassio. It's an old matchup that we've seen kind of fall out of favor. Oh, I would love to see Wunder on R just so we can tell them Wunder on R, because it's like the inside joke whenever you see the Splyce guys. And you ask them what's he going to be, and he was like, yeah, 5 games on R, just like the semifinals that they played. This Kled pick would actually be good into Rumble, because it actually has a disgusting amount of damage, especially if you pair it with an early game jungler.
And it hasn't always been the best pick for Splyce, but maybe Wunder hoping to make a name for himself here, maybe picked up a few new things with this composition. And as you said, solid options to counterpick the Rumble coming out here, and Misfits and Power of Evil specifically trying something new on the stage.
And I'm really excited for this Syndra into Cassio matchup. I think it's a really fun one. Both champions that have really good control power come the mid game, but also really good at skirmishing. So they synergize very nicely with the junglers that both teams have picked, because you have a lot of early game power with the Kha'Zix matchup with the Syndra, really good gank possibilities in the mid, but also when roaming around with a Rengar, that Cassio can act as a really good buffer towards his early damage.
And we have to see, because we haven't seen Power of Evil play Cassio yet this season, but as far as historical picks go, this was a PoE special back in the day. Has he kept up? Is this still in his repertoire? Can he look to outplay Sencuts here, because he got crushed in the previous game?
Yeah, definitely very interesting, because Misfits, they opted in a lot of their early draft went towards that bottom side of the map with the Ashe Zyra, so they're going to have the pressure there. So we can definitely see the signature Power of Evil roam to the bottom lane to dive right there. On the side of Splyce, however, all their eggs are kind of in the top side basket, so Kobe and Mickey, again, they have to survive. But if you look at a potential dive top with Syndra, Kha'Zix on the Kled lane, poor old Rumble will have to try very hard to go for a 1-for-1 right there. So I'm very excited, because Splyce seem to really go for top side, Misfits bottom side.
Well, this is your chance, folks. If you want to participate at LO Esports, hashtag SPYWin or hashtag MSFWin. Hear the music. You can feel the tension build. Have they adapted this time? Will this new composition be enough for Misfits? Will what Splyce has got cooking be too much for them to handle? It's time, ladies and gentlemen. Game 2. Will Splyce advance to match point? Can Misfits strike back? We'll find out here.
But we're seeing what we wanted to see from Misfits, pushing lanes. They have the Rumble up in the top, will naturally have the push over Kled because he severely lacks wave clear. We already talked about how Misfits have a very powerful bottom lane in the form of the Ashe and the Zyra, and mid is fairly even with a slight advantage going in favor of Syndra. But at least Misfits in the early game have a little bit more freedom compared to what they did in game 1.
We're also getting 2 of the highest damaging abilities in the game. I think Flame Spitter and Bear Trap on a Rope are actually the 2 highest non-ultimate abilities in terms of just raw damage that they can produce.
Yeah, Bear Trap on a Rope has disgusting base ratios. Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember when Kled came out, dying to that very early on.
It's just all in the end effect, though. You gotta power through. Stay close.
Luckily, Rumble is a melee champion, so I imagine it'll be pretty easy to keep him locked down.
But then you have to stay close in a literal pit of fire. It's not the most convenient way to stay close, one could argue.
You sacrifice your Skarl. Celebrate with some drumsticks.
I gotta say, like,
what?
It's fair game in the game of war.
Wow.
You get to kill the Rumble, and you get to eat your pet Skarl. Delicious.
I mean, to be fair, do we know it's the same Skarl? He does just keep coming back. Have we found an infinite supply of food on the Rift?
Just one more. Where did Skarl 72 go? He went to the farm. But we have a new Skarl. Skarl 73.
This is very reminiscent of my childhood, guys. I was told that the farm was a great place.
Oh, it is. It's delicious. Medium raw.
For now, no Flame Spitter or no Bear Trap on a rope.
Oh, there's a trap. It's on a rope. He's pulling it. Does not too much damage.
So Flame Spitter does a lot more damage, as it turns out, in these instances. And Wunder having to tank a lot of that to the face in these early levels. Not as comfortable or as much parity as we may have expected.
And let's talk about these 2 top laners, because they are arguably two of the strongest laning top laners that we have here in the European LCS. You can see the CS differential is first and second during laning phase. They are the two of the highest jungle participants. That's where usually the junglers spend a lot of their time during the early game. And you can see that Alfari gets about 20 more seconds compared to Wonder, yet he's still doing relatively well in lane. And you can see their kills plus assists at 15 are relatively low, but that's what you expect for top laners.
Yeah, these guys are good top laners. They're no Vizicachi, of course, but they're close. And that's why we want to see them on picks like Kled, like Rumble, like Fiora potentially. I don't care if Fizz, no more boring Shen versus Gragas, and hopefully it'll drag more action into the game, because last game, while it was a tactical masterpiece, it was void of a bit of excitement.
Well, maybe not excitement, but definitely void of high aggression plays. Not a lot of aggressing onto.
I actually had a great conversation with Medic about about Kled, whereas because any ultimate that has an exclamation mark always has to be said with the word charge. You can never say it passively. You always have to yell it. So you ready for that, Draco?
I personally disagree. I think we can just say charge.
I would also, yeah.
Well, you two are anti-fun.
Look, all I'm saying is I don't want to be told when to shout, Vedius. I'm a free play-by-play caster. You don't control me.
All right. That's enough about fun little stories. Let's go back to the game. Sama and Ignar, they're still pushing. That is what Zyra Ash usually does, but Mickey and Kobe had a little bit of a strong fade earlier to at least relieve some of the pressure. A good indicator to see how well these lanes are going is just to count the potions. As long as Mickey's not out of pots, when any of the opponents is still on 2 or 3 potions, they're doing fine, but he's slowly getting poked down.
And of course, Ash opting for the longsword start, has more potions at her disposal, can stay in this lane slightly more healthy than Kabi at this point. It's going to take a long time before that lifesteal outweighs the extra healing.
Now, guys, while the bot lane is extremely exciting, and we always love to talk about it, let's look at the mid lane, because this is a matchup that we don't see every day, and more recently, the Cassio has fallen out of favor, and this is the first time that Power of Evil has actually picked it up. We actually have to go back to bottom lane.
It's a small trade here, getting aggressive. Actually, Ignar going to get exhausted. That's a lot of Voidlings.
Nobody's going to die here, but it's a play to force and reset the wave, because Kabi and Mickey are at the point where they're almost getting out sustained and they can't actually deal with the jungle ganks. So they need to get the hell out of dodge fast, but there's no wards. They're actually going to die here, I think.
Trashy's coming down, but he might be too little too late. TP coming in as well. Kabi flashes in. He's hungry for blood. Heal goes out. He's not going to be able to get anything back. Kakao walks in. He's just going to give that one over, but in comes Wonder. Kakao could be in trouble. Wonder manages to get one out. He's going to demount. Mickey's still alive. Trashy coming in as well, but Power of Evil doing his best to kite. At the end of the day, it's just the 1-for-1.
A lot of summoner spells were burned, and it will be first blood going into Misfits, but a lot was cost in order to get that advantage.
Yeah, Trashy's still lingering around. PoE gets stopped here. He's losing so much right here, because Senkix now can go back to the mid lane and just push that wave and deny some CS. We have to go back to the way that started. I love it when bot lanes that are at the point of being out-sustained, if the wave breaks into the turret, just go for the hard push. It's like you just go for an aggressive exhaust, push them in here, and Kobe realizes Kakao is coming, so I love this flash super aggressively because he knows he's going to die otherwise. And he puts so much pressure that the ensuing fight is still kind of won by Splyce here. Mickey, really good reaction flash to get out of Power Evil as well. You could argue that PoE should have led with the miasma instead of the flash Q. But very well played by the Splyce bot lane here in the end. A little greedy to go for the push, but they fight their way out of that deficit quite impressively.
I mean, if we're nitpicking as well, if you're Senkix, you arguably could have stayed mid. The map movement bot wasn't necessary because you've already seen that Power of Evil didn't get any impact off of it, and you could have gotten a little bit of an advantage in mid, forcing him to lose farm, but you're moving down for safety. You're trying to keep him as equal as you can now in the top lane that far. He's taking a lot of damage.
Leap in, Trashy.
Isolation.
All too easy. Out comes the arrow. Kabi says, I'll pick that one up.
And the reason all these plays are connected, it's a really beautiful butterfly effect, because that roam went down. Splyce pushed in bot lane first. If you push in, you always have the wave reset, you go faster to base, and then you can rotate. They make the proactive play again here on that Rumble, who is low mobility into a Kled, and it's so easy for them to get another kill in addition to the turret that they just pick up.
They know he doesn't have the flash. They capitalize on these small advantages. Splyce controlling the early game once again. Pickban not making any difference.
Look mid. That's another zoning ultimate here, but in essence actually working out here because they get chip damage on mid turret, and they chip tier 2 because Misfits were so slow on the reaction.
Splyce once again with a fantastic early game, demonstrating their good understanding of how to play the map and punishing the Misfits squad for not really being able to properly respond. But now they are on the early back foot. They need to claw some control back over the game, and you can see they push this bottom wave all the way underneath the turret. Now let's see what they can do to try and reclaim some control.
Yeah, and again, you don't freeze in competitive play because while it looks fun to just annihilate your direct lane opponent, you force the rest of the map to be played 4v5. Splyce, this reminds me of the 2016 summer at the end. In a lane swap meta as well, they were just really good at understanding where to go on the map. They were never valued of having the strongest players, but their team play is what really made them a strong opponent for a lot of teams in European LCS.
It was good to see, and it's good to see it now. Traditional lane swaps, they may be dead. We may not see them in the first few minutes, but we're seeing them after minute 5. And Splyce clearly in control of the tempo. They are dictating the pace of this game, and Misfits, they just have to respond.
But this is an interesting decision. They're looking to hold with jungler top versus a push on the top lane, while going 2v0 on the bottom lane here. This often fails, in the sense that usually the enemy jungler will join it. It's a 4v2, and you can't hold a 4v2. But there is a case to be made pre-6 bot lane that you can actually hold a 3v2. If not, we have to wonder why Wunder and Trashy are on the top side of the map here. That could actually be the first mistake that they've actually made, because now on the bottom lane, they're much slower on the play.
The difference is, though, that even if they are slow on the play, you still have the Syndra and push in mid. You can actually force something with the ultimate coming back up soon for Kled. You also have the Infernal Drake in the bottom half of the map too. The question is, do they want to possibly risk this in exchange for their tier 2 in the top lane?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Because that Infernal was always there. Like, going for Krugs isn't getting you an Infernal faster, right? So we have to still question Splyce. Are they just a little bit too greedy? And Misfits realizing this, and should they have not maybe pushed on anywhere, because they're essentially losing their tempo advantage right now.
And Trashy not even afraid to drop so low. He knows that there's no one there to contest them. He knows that they can take this with safety. Infernal Drake will be crucial as both teams move forward in the game. And Copy's still going to walk away with this bottom tower, if not just a little bit later.
So there was a window there that Misfits could have looked to punish Splyce for. However, they didn't quite. Perhaps they try and force something now.
Arrow, no mana for Cobby. Mickey doing his best to block, but the chain CC is coming in. Cobby is all but dead. Flash out.
Yeah, flash all along. That's one greedy 80 carry right there.
If Zyra was 6, that would have been a very different play. Regardless, though, Cobby does get away with his life. And now that they're going to be forced back, you have the push down in bottom. Question is, with 2 members in the rivers, do they look to potentially push up in mid?
Yeah, but both side lanes are super long right now, and now Kled can actually just freeze, or the equivalent, a very, very slow push in the top lane. And we're going to see Alphari's economy get targeted here. He is now stuck as a Rumble in a map that has 2 long side lanes, and he can't really go anywhere, and there are no objectives to brute force for Misfits, so he's playing jungle buddy system right now. And Kled will spiral out of control. We could actually see a Gargantuan CS lead amass for Wunder in the top lane, unless Misfits can break through this mid lane.
And Wunder now starting to get ahead in CS, and not just that, but the Ninja Tabby. The Seeker's Arm Guard. These are not the items that the Rumble wants to have. Maybe wants more of the Leandries, wants more of those damage components forced so defensively so early on.
It's always a sad day when 2 of the strongest laning top laners in Europe don't get to lane. They're forced out everywhere else on the map, obviously. Wunder is in a more favorable situation right now, and Alphari, he's just picking up the scraps as an engage gets forced.
Wood chip blocks 1 proc, leap forward, Cacao. Not going to cleanse out, looks to land a CC, but he keeps just missing those bola.
Oh, this is actually very big. Because even if Mickey dies, I don't think that's worth it. Because look at top lane, that big wave is coming anyways, and what Splyce want to do with the slow push that started well over a minute ago is to make this wave just massive. Force Rumble, like you have to farm it, and then Wunder's going to disappear, and it's like, bro, now you got to choose. Do you want this farm, or do you want to help your team in a 4v5? And what's going to happen now is this is going to crash into the turret, and Wunder can just ult anywhere and force a 45 that Alphari cannot deal with his ultimate or teleport.
No TP, as you said, has the ultimate to get to lane, has the TP. It's Wunder's time to make a play if he wants to.
But Splyce don't buy into it, so my entire story is useless because this guy just clears it in one go. All right.
Rumble, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yay! Remember that? What were we saying at the beginning of the game? Was this the highest damaging abilities in the game?
Gosh darn it. I love it when a Kled pushes in a big wave, disappears, and just runs like to the mid lane, make a play, but Splyce, map-wise, wasn't ready for it.
Unfortunate. Couldn't quite get the timing together. Maybe
he gave the team more credit, but perhaps he should have.
It's an opportunity, and that's the problem. Misfits, they give away a lot of opportunities. Not every team punishes it, but it's definitely there. Right now, Mickey is on a very dangerous mission in the bot side. He doesn't know that the enemy jungle is empty. If he knew, he would just place all the depots he could in the world.
Still has to be scared.
Let's follow him for a while.
A little bit of trauma after the last incident. Had to flash to safety.
It's the dance of the supports, right? You just go back and forth twice in front of a bush, and then you've done your due diligence. You've acted as if
there's
somebody...
no way they'll wait for a 3rd time.
Yeah.
Now as we look across the map, things still very close. Not more than a 1K gold advantage to either side. Splyce with the Infernal to back them up, but nothing too crazy yet. Biggest advantage appears to be Kobby on the bottom side of the map, who is building up a pretty decent CS lead.
Kobby, he had a fantastic game one. His team fighting was spectacular, always playing on the edge, utilizing the Ezreal fantastically, I feel. And I feel like thinking about him as an individual throughout the series, he hasn't really been one of the standout performers, but as the season has progressed, he really has been stepping up along with his team. And let's not forget the last split. This bottom lane of Splyce was considered the new and upcoming Sven and Mithy of Europe.
Oh. They were second best behind Sven and Mithy.
Yeah, they were the upcoming towards Sven and Mithy, right? That was the goal.
They were still a long way off. Bot lanes in Europe last split were pretty weak. That's why Kobby and Mickey were rated so high. And that's why a lot of people were so quick to write them off again this split, though. It's like, yeah, but everybody's better now. But these guys can actually lane very well. Mickey, apparently, in scrims, is a monster. This guy is so good in an environment where it's sometimes okay to flash in aggressively, okay to go for the aggressive play.
Let's not forget that Jin Sion, where it felt like he had more freedom. It did seem more like a scrim game, and that synergy between the two of them was spectacular, very enjoyable to watch.
And that's something we've heard from Splyce time and time again. We look at it, they say they're a team, they own scrims, they're confident, they're dominant, but when it comes to stage, we don't always see that same form of Splyce on stage. But it feels like we are starting to see signs of it now.
I think it's fair to say that Splyce as a team are still pretty confident now. Looking at the map once again, we can see that Kled is moving towards this mid lane. Power People has just gone back to base, so this could be a window for Splyce to take advantage of.
Yeah, drop off the kids at the daycare, push in that wave, and then move somewhere else. That's what Wonder wants to do every time on this Kled. You don't want to play against the Rumble under his turret. You want to push in, disappear.
Moving for more. Wonder walking in, moving right in onto Ignar. Bear trap on a rope, not enough. Out comes the charge. Locks onto Hansama. Flashes right back out. The CC is coming in. Up goes Mickey. Down he goes. No! Does manage to make it out for now, but Wonder is holding on to life. Will demount. Or save that health bar for now. Bloody exchange, but no one gonna drop.
Oh, very, very lucky for Splyce that Alphari's teleport is on like a 10-second cooldown right now, because otherwise they would have been toasted in their jungle. We see one of the drawbacks of Kled. Once you pop that ultimate, there is no stopping it. Not even disconnecting your keyboard will stop that ultimate. So.
Is that a disadvantage though, Greppo? If we have more action, if we have more bloodthirstiness?
And to be fair, if Splyce are a team looking to get more aggressive on stage, nothing helps that like a button that really doesn't let you stop once you push it.
We're going aggressive, boys. Let's go.
That's why he casted it so short as well. You can see he's like, you know what? I want a hard engage. But not that hard. I'll just go right across the wall and then I'll go back.
We'll see where I end up. I think I'll be safe, maybe.
Yep, it's always a guessing game. That's why great Kled players are very few and far in between, because you just really need to know where to put that ultimate, predict how enemies are going to juke, and then find the right target, because it latches on to the closest target that you will find. Definitely a really tough ability to use.
Good news is there's no giant tanky front line this time around. Every time we see a Kled, we say, well, he really doesn't want to ult that tank in the late game fights, but there's really no wrong option here for the side of Splyce. But for now, Misfits starting to put things back in their court, pressuring in on the mid lane, getting down a bit of vision.
And right now, for the time being, Splyce, they've conceded the Ocean Drake. Not too unfortunate, but this will give them a lot of freedom around the top half of Misfits jungle. You can see the push has already began from Wonder. This will enable Splyce to gain control over this blue side jungle. Not only will they be able to steal away this blue buff, they can look to get a bit more damage down onto this tower.
Yeah, they're definitely playing on tier 2 top here. Got the blue as well. They got deep vision. It forces Rumble ultimate, but this one caster creep is going to survive, and that's actually long enough for this turret to drop without getting any armor increase. I like the trade. Just invest more in gold here for Splyce. Let the Dragons go. Misfits have shown that they play such a passive mid-game anyways that the gold really matters for them.
And additionally, it's an Ocean Drake. It's not the Inferno. It's not any kind of late game scaling. It's not the mountain to threaten objectives. A little bit of regeneration, but not going to help where we're not even seeing a laning phase anymore. It's teams moving across the map together, looking for larger plays.
And it's Splyce again, demonstrating their good understanding of how to play the map, where to assign their lanes, and to punish these mispositionings that we're seeing from Misfit. We saw it consistently during the early game in Game 1, and now we're seeing it once again here in Game 2. And I feel like that while the draft has changed from Misfits, it feels like that their play style is still the same.
It's definitely still an improvement though, because Kakao was targeted very hard in the early game. He lost quite a few camps with Trashy. Trashy had that kind of utility gank where they got the early turret. This time it's more been objective trades. Definitely on the side of Splyce, but at least our Misfits, they're getting something in return.
And right now, Those gains are not enough in terms of the goal differential.
The gains are never enough, Betty.
Why is that? Why can the gains never be enough? Can you not just be satisfied? One day, do you
the
not
nature of ambition, Vedius. You're always
forever
for more.
small.
But one day I went to the gym, when I used to go to the gym, I came back one day and I thought, I am content.
You're content.
I look great.
Was that a long time ago?
It was indeed a long time ago.
All right, Betty, as much as I love hearing about your bodybuilding stories, I want to focus back in on the game at hand. Because right now, decent lead coming in for Splyce. They've got the Infernal to back it up as well. They seem to have control of the map. But what is the next move for this team?
I mean, generally, Vision will always point an arrow at what the objective is they're playing for. Tier 2 in the bottom lane and enemy red buff is what's being targeted because it's been kind of crowded by 3 wards. I think Splyce have shown us a good textbook example in these 2 games right now, how deep vision works here. If you look at the wards in the enemy jungle, they are in perfect support for both a push on the bottom lane and a safe contest of the enemy jungle. So they want to steal away camps, buffs here, then just split up the map, and have a much more mobile Wunder in the other side of the map who can deal with numbers advantages much better than Alphari can. Alphari can only ulti.
That ulti, however, will save the tower in the end and will mean that Misfits can pick up the buff here. Glimpse of the Void, most likely to go over to the hands of Kakao. Will make him that much more lethal if he can find and isolate Wunder in those side lanes. However, may not be worth it as Splyce now have dominance over the mid lane, can set up to siege down this tier 1.
Look at the amount of damage that this mid lane tier 1 has actually sustained from the relentless pressure from Senkux onto Power of Evil. We saw it in game 1. He was actually dominant in that matchup, and you'd expect it in terms of the matchup. But this time around, again, due to all the pressure that Splyce have been exerting across the map, it has resulted in Power of Evil, again, being forced to play super passive and conceding so much control over this mid lane.
And Splyce could actually use this window where this tower is so low and the Rumble ultimate was on cooldown to maybe force something. Obviously, they feel comfortable with their lead, so they're not going to brute force a play that they could throw here. But I think it's definitely worth noting that with Rumble ulti on cooldown, he's essentially quite useless if he has to teleport into fight, so maybe they could have just brute force mid here.
They weren't taking those risks in the previous game. Not going to take them here either. They don't want to risk face checking a brush. They don't want to risk diving a tower, getting outplayed. Definitely not in the face of the Cassiopeia and that Miasma as well for
but
now.
Definitely like, I'm sorry for stepping on your toes there, Dracos. It's okay. Figuratively, because you have really big feet, so it's actually also possible. Definitely like the way Varus is playing the side lanes here. Always pushing out far enough, not stopping at the river, super afraid, right? But just keep putting the pressure. Somebody will always have to catch these side lanes, which means you then can play with more people in the mid lane.
And this is how pressure works in these high elo games, these high-level games.
The highest elo, that is.
But basically, it's not about like trying to find picks or trying to get kills. It's all about utilizing minion raids and forcing the enemy team into just responding to this pressure around the map.
Well, Misfits very quickly going to need to respond to the pressure on the top side of the map. A massive pre-play building, but they've got a fight in their eyes. Equalizer goes down. Copy, he can't flash to safety. He's going right into the bush, and Kakao is on the way, but the whole team turns. It's not enough. Wunder is on the front lines. Kakao slowly getting knocked down. So far, it is the 1-for-1. Both teams backing away. Trashy, hungry for blood, looking to leap in here on Kakao.
Cooldown's coming up, yep. That's the isolation. Enough. Poor Trashy got hit by one single plant there on the way, chasing the enemy jungle right there. But that was the reply they're looking for, because they felt if they go top to get the farm, they lose their mid tower. So Misfits brute forced the fight, and they still ended up losing.
Splyce just played the fight extremely well once again. The fact that Power of Evil dropped so quickly, he didn't even have a chance to get his ultimate off. Initially, things looked very promising for the side of Misfits, but now Ignar, he's in some trouble.
Oh no.
On the river here, Senkux, Q, E-stun, Ignar flashes. He still had that after the last fight. What I think it's worth noting is that this arrow that came out from Hansama, it kind of puts everybody in slow motion, and it gives Splyce more time to react to the play than Misfits actually had put into setting up the play, because PoE died with exhaust, flash, and ulti up, and that is inexcusable at this level of play.
Especially when that Cassio at this point in the game is one of your main damage dealers. So you can see, again, just illustrate, look at your minimap, you can see that big minion wave on the top side. This is the answer from Misfits. They go on to copy, the setup looks ideal, but look, Power of Evil, he is a short-range, mid-lane mage that just walked within ultimate range of Senkux without even throwing his exhaust down onto him, without using the ulti, without even considering the positioning of Senkux in that fight.
I think he had his screen up high and he didn't see the flying coming.
Right.
That's what happens. That's like the only plausible explanation is that they were talking in team comm. Guys, we're going to engage when this wave hits top tower because we can't, otherwise we lose mid turret. Sama says, okay, I'm gonna arrow this guy. I'm gonna Kabe. That's what they're yelling. Everybody looks at Kabe and wants to burst him. And then Wunder chips PoE on the side. Senkuk follows up, and before he can even exhaust or ulti to disengage, Power Evil drops, and then it's such an easy fight for Splyce to play out.
And there's no frontline here to protect PoE, and additionally, look at the itemization coming out. So very defensive on the side of Power of Evil.
It is a difficult composition to play when you have no major frontline, something that was discussed at length early on during the regular season as to whether or not it was better to have that tanky top versus the high damage dealer. And typically when we look at players like Alfari and Wunder, we do say that usually they perform better, but now we don't have time as an arrow hits Mickey.
He leaps forward, nice disengage coming in from Kabe. Gets him in the funnel, Mickey most likely gonna go down, does drop. Trashy taking his time. Not greedy enough to take that one.
Senkuk's looking for a reaction to dive bot lane here. Alfari fighting. Here's hop off Kled. Wunder just needs to buy time because Senkuk's coming from behind.
Leaps back. Senkuk walks in. He just wants to walk this one down. Alfari can't get a kill back in exchange. Does get the 1-for-1. That's a start for Misfits.
This is the best case scenario for Misfits. The fact that Alfari is able to trade a 1-for-1. There's no minion wave in the bottom lane, so Senkuk isn't able to put much pressure down onto that tower. And Misfits, they're looking to push at mid.
Yeah. It's a consolation prize in the red buff. Varus looking to hold her. Senkuk's flanking again. Could be a creative solution. Pavio still has ultimate here. Splyce have to be incredibly careful, but they have enough pressure to save that mid lane turret.
And Kabe, not on the lethality bars, doesn't do enough damage to really be a threat by himself. They're free to continue the push.
Yeah, it's again Mickey just going a bit too far, a bit too deep for that vision, a bit too fast when mid lane wasn't pushed in far enough.
Something that we've seen from him fairly consistently throughout the regular season.
Summer split.
That too. Mickey, while he is always good, I think it was a great discussion we had a few weeks ago about while he is fantastic during the laning phase, really good at finding picks, sometimes he can be a little overzealous, but right now, Splyce are the overzealous team as they start off the Baron.
Looking good so far. Rengar all coming out. Splyce, can they cut this one down? Varus does a lot of damage to that pick overall. They're just backing off. Slightly lower health bars, though. Have to be careful.
This is where you kind of, you know when you're cooking and you just don't know, is my steak, is it done? Like great teams, great chefs, you know, they get their steak out of the kitchen, out of the oven, and they know it's done. But when you're struggling, sometimes you just gotta cut in it, take a little peek. That's in essence what that play was. It's like, do we have perfect vision? Could we do Baron? Maybe. Let's try, you know. If it's not good, you throw it back in the pan, back in the oven. That's what Splyce are doing.
There was a real risk, though, of the Misfits flank, because bear in mind that Alfari, he could have teleported to any one of these three juicy wards that are sitting right behind Splyce as they were starting off that Baron. So if Misfits had had a slightly better setup, a little bit more control, that could have ended in disaster, and that stake could end up giving them much more than they handled.
Steak on the floor.
Yeah, definitely not where you want to be. We got a Zyra, an Ashe, a Cassio, a Rumble. You group up, you're going down, and for Wunder, he's all alone, and he may still drop. Gets dismounted, tries to leap back, pocket pistol, not enough. Kakao gonna take him down, but in comes Senkuk. Maybe looking for a hero play, moves forward. Kakao still so low, out comes the ultimate.
He was looking for both of them.
But he did not find both of them.
Nope.
He ended up only trading 1-for-1. But the question is, what can both teams reclaim on the map? Splyce, they're looking to get a bit deep vision down, push in mid, and only Hans Summer is left to clear.
For now, map seems to calm down. Not going to be another Baron attempt. They find a small pick. It is a brief reprieve for both sides. However, Splyce going to continue to press their advantage and take these small objectives. Cloud Drake, maybe not what they wanted to see, but happy to get it in the end.
It feels a lot like Misfits really struggling to know what to do at this point in the game. You can see that Wunder, he overextends a little bit down in the bottom lane, makes it easy for Misfits to be able to set up this gank because Splyce throughout the rest of the map can't really punish Kakao for being sent down to the bottom side. Senkuk is able to get himself a return, but you can see that Misfits on the rest of the map also, like, look at the number of members of Splyce that are down here right now, and look at the waves setup from the side of Misfits. Like, there's nothing that they can gain off the back of it either. They're not really, we saw it a lot in game one where they're not able to gain any advantages even after forcing a lot of points.
Onto Mickey, trying to find the counter engage on the side of Splyce. In goes Trashy. Multiple members CC, but Mickey is still alive. Alfari locked up, isolated, taken down. That's a kill for Trashy. Splyce in control as Wunder zones out Power of Evil all by himself. Splyce, take control.
Yeah, what Kakao was doing in his chair right there was Korean sign language for a nice champ, by the way. Talking about Syndra, of course. He does it again right here. QE into one shot from R. If you have a slight lead on the champion, it's so disgusting to play against. Even after all the nerfs and Misfits, we're suffering from this. Even though Mickey got caught, he flashed out just in time. And now a much easier Baron call for Splyce because they will essentially force a fight 5v4.
Shaf The Master Chefs may be coming out, but they've got their eyes on a different prize. Moving in, Hansama still alive for now, but does get taken down. Trashy, oh so low, but PoE gets pocket pistoled into oblivion, and Splyce may not get the Baron, but they're happy to walk away with the kills. Take their sweet time taking out Ignar. He just does what he can to buy time.
And Splyce, they were never interested in the Baron. They just wanted to fight. They wanted the kills, and they effectively get 4 members considering their kill onto Alfari early on.
Yeah, it shows one of the strengths from Kled as well. If you're getting pincered, the best thing to do is to engage on the weaker part of that trap, and this is exactly what Wunder is doing here. He's already going to get attached to Power of Evil, Ignar, or Hansama, and as long as Zyra doesn't have ultimate, these are all really good targets to go on, and it leaves Kakao isolated on the right side. He can't even enter the fight here, and again, it shows the lack of frontline is really punishing Misfits because it is so complex to play against. And then Ignar's plant gets thrown back in his face. It's actually quite brutal.
Oof. Look at the last team fight. You can see who died quick. You can see who died earlier.
I mean, Alfari was not in this fight, so he couldn't do any damage. Yeah, this is the Blastcone Baron, and this is because they were much faster out of base. People were still dead. They won that fight. They don't need to rush Baron and potentially throw. They can just go to base, get the free 5-man, and Misfits, losing again.
Exactly what Splyce wanted. So much confidence coming in. They've got a massive gold lead to back them up. An Infernal Drake, a Cloud Drake, a Baron, and this is where we see them start to tear down those structures, start to grow even more. The Misfits doing what they can to get something back.
And now Splyce, they're grouping up as a fireman unit. Someone needs to go off and deal with that minion wave in the bottom. But when you have the Baron being able to break into the base, take down the rest of the structures becomes a much easier process because those waves, they push faster. They have to, the wave clear on the side of Misfits is so much weaker because of all of the extra magic resistance that the minions get. And it's simply a matter of, it's the rotation game now for Splyce.
For now, Misfits holding on, clearing out the waves, waiting for more Splyce members to come through. No empowered minions quite yet. PoE doing what he can to clear it out, but it's a slow and a steady push coming in for Splyce. They had their explosive plays. They had their opportunity. They snuck in for that Baron. They got multiple kills. They grew themselves a lead, and now it's just slow and steady to finish, to find something bigger.
Now, there are a few options still available for Misfits. What we've seen fairly consistently throughout this game is the Ash Arrows coming out onto Mickey in particular, and unfortunately for Misfits, they're yet to find a successful engage. But when you have 5 members grouping up in a cluster, it becomes easier to find those engages. Breaking into the base is the hardest point and leaves the biggest room for error. So right now we have to see whether or not Splyce can play the slow and steady game and just rely on their minions to be able to take down these structures.
Yeah, Splyce also elected to play 4-1, not 1-3-1. They just made a slow push in the bottom lane, so that's eventually going to crash in. Take at least a minute and a half, though, I feel like, before that wave actually does any really good pressure, unless they go and move over to speed it up. But 4-1 much safer when you play against the likes of Rengar, Flash, Zyra Snare, and an Arrow. You don't want to play 1-3-1 because you're so prone to getting picked out early in the game. And you can just power through. In the 4v4 and the 1v1 respectively, they are both stronger. So this should be a good push for Splyce.
Everything going in the favor of Splyce for now. Misfits, they don't really have any options. There's not really a whole ton in the playbook right now. It's clear the waves, it's wait patiently, maybe hope to find a weakness or an opportunity to expose Splyce.
And this Kled pick can also just move in between the lanes. Wunder right now getting picked off for it. His reaction from Misfits.
Moving forward, decent damage goes onto him, taking his time, flash to safety.
Gotta make sure you're in the right spot before you attempt that flash.
The thing is, though, that's actually 2 ultimates used from the side of Misfits that they now don't have to stop the push in the bottom lane for Splyce.
And TP is up from Wunder. He's going to go back, he's going to remount, he's going to be ready to move into the fight. Baron empowered creeps. Not going to be threatened too much by the Miasma. Power of Evil cleanse it out. Use that QSS to be safe, but Splyce unconcerned. They're just moving onto this tower. Alfari, where is the ultimate? Move in, Mickey locking down PoE, they leap in, they get a lot of damage down, but that's a great equalizer. Kabi is knocked up, but he's not taken down yet. He's still alive, and Wunder out of nowhere onto the front lines. He ults in, he leaps forward, and Splyce moving in to get a little bit more. Out comes the damage, out comes the double kill. Bear trap on a rope. Hansama gonna get pulled back, but Wunder just a little too hungry for it. Not gonna risk the fountain dive.
Ooh, I almost felt like Splyce were gonna throw that game by engaging without Wunder TPing first, but they're just so strong in the 4v5 that when Wunder joins, he just finishes that play. Splyce get in it, and they're looking at a Nexus turret.
Splyce are looking so convincing right now. After a dominant game 1, they're looking to try and make it a 2-0.
Making it look all too easy, but there's low health bars. PoE is alive and well. Can Misfits hold on? Slowly but surely, the tower starts to chip. Starting to take this one down. And Splyce Starting to look like they may back out. Get the flash from Hans Sama. Where's the fight? Mickey being pulled back. In comes Ignar. He's got the home guards. Maybe looking for a little bit more, but he's isolated. Mickey ulted up. He's set to fall. Does get the damage down in the end, and Misfits, they hold on to the base. TP comes in from Alfari. Fight may just continue. Out comes the ulti from Rengar. Not even setting his sights on Wonder. Maybe looking for a bit more. Turns to him in the end. No chance to remount, and that's the shutdown.
And Splyce overstayed just a little too long. They thought that with the minion waves, with the low health members of Misfits, they could try and force and end the game. But Misfits, the respawns were coming in. The ultimates were ready and available, and they're able to punish by getting themselves 2 kills and an Infernal Drake.
But these are minor tweaks that we're looking at. Like, yes, they're engaged bot side. Maybe if Wunder TPs a bit earlier, it's better, right? Or maybe if they back off the Nux's turret. But overall, if you look Splyce as a whole in these 2 games, they seem to be a full tier ahead of Misfits, both in execution of the lanes that they're drafting, the drafting itself, the setups around vision, deep vision, much better. Like Trashy and Mickey are just giving a crash course in Deep Vision 101, and it's getting them so many objectives.
And I think the way in which they make this play happen is very impressive. Bear in mind that Power of Evil had already used his QSS earlier on. Mickey feels confident to force the play, and even though that was a good equalizer, the goal deficit is just so big that it doesn't deal the damage that you would want at this point in the game, and it just becomes a chase for the rest of the Splyce members. Now, this is why they get a little bit overzealous. This is why they think, we're strong enough, we're fine, we can end the game. But then Misfits get themselves the turnaround.
And Misfits is continuing to struggle in this series. They changed the pick and ban, but it is not enough. We look to the other side for Splyce. Everything going in their favor. Look at those score lines. 5-0-2 for Senkux, dominating mid.
And if you ever got to make a case for the ROI on a control ward or 2, 75 gold a pop. You buy like 3 or 4, and you can get a Baron power play of 7,000 gold. That's a lot of percentages markup.
Invest now, folks. Control wards, they're going up.
Yep.
Things just look so good for Splyce. Even Mickey, who were critical, hey, this guy is far too often on the front line. Only 2 deaths. How many Ash Shadows hit him this game? 7, 8? Still finding it, but
how's that? I'm like, great positive stories about Mickey, and it's like, how many times did he get hit? You know, 7, 8 times.
They turn the fight every time.
And he got up every single time. He's like the Rocky of Valzar sports.
He was down, but never out. And he's actually been a big instrument in the success of Splyce because he's been like the martyr. They hit me while the rest of my team succeed. And right now, Splyce's next objective is very highly going to be that Baron, which will be spawning in about 40 seconds. A lot of vision has already been invested towards the top side of the map. We were discussing earlier on, wards are a good indicator of where the play is.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty difficult one to guess where Splyce are going next.
Yeah, definitely Elder Dragon seems to be
You can't hear me, but I'm clapping, audience. I'm not going to hold my hands up to the mic for effect. I'm not a radio producer, but give him the golf clap.
Misfits, they seem to be thinking that Splyce want to dabble with that Elder Dragon because they're setting up a face check, but Splyce, they don't quite care.
You don't have to be worried about it. They got Wonder on the bottom side. They have super minions. They know they have priority across the board.
We saw Senkix basing. He's like, guys, he probably has gold for Rabadons. He was about to pull a Froggen. It's like, yeah, item spike, guys. I know you want this objective, but I think it's time for me to finish my build.
Just going to have to give it up. And I mean, the gold grab, very telling at the start of this game. So even in the early game, then so Splyce favored as we move forward. And now with a second Baron, I don't know what Misfits can even do to stop this from ending in the favor of Splyce.
Pray that maybe a keyboard disconnects, or maybe an Ash Harrow hits perhaps Senkux in the face.
That if you disconnect the keyboard, the Kledo still keeps going.
It even has to be the right timing. Ooh. And I love this snowball build. It's pretty standard on mid laners, but Morello into Ludens for a 2-item spike, into Void Staff to deal with the 1 member that might be strong enough to survive your combo, God forbid. And then you just get Rabadons to top it all off to make sure that nobody survives your QER combo if you're Senkux.
It's about graduating from wizard school. It allows you extra damage, and I feel like that's just going to be... Oh, Senkux, he does get hit!
Forward, Senkux locked up and taken down! Does get the ult off, but Power of Evil going to live in the end. That's a pick to start it off. Mickey now the guy on the sideline, slowed up, locked down, and knocked out. Alfari gets a kill back. Splyce overstep.
Senkux, you may be a fully fledged magician right now, but there was no trick that can help you get out of that one. With you going down and Mickey dropping too, Misfits have enough members to buy time.
Yeah, invest full in damage. Generally not the right play to play in front of your team.
See, the difference is PoE, he's got the QSS, he's got the Archangels. See, I love the aggressive build from Senkux, but I don't see any defensive items.
It's fine, honestly. It was just a fantastic arrow from Hansama because you're playing against a guy on 8 ping who has 8 ping rather, who has flash and ghost. So definitely able to get out of that one. It was just a very well-timed arrow, and Hansama proving that he, under pressure, can still land those critical arrows. Could be important in the next few games because Splyce obviously still on point to close out this series. They're still well out of throwing distance.
Yeah, very well on their way to finish it, although it may take a little bit longer now. It's not going to be the Baron power play we saw earlier. We'll still be getting some small objectives back. Misfits making moves to come back on their own, but it's going to take a couple more insane picks, just like that, if they want to stay alive in this one.
Now the bottom lane inhibitor has respawned for Misfits, which means that only the Baron empowered minions will be knocking onto the doors of the base. Misfits are primary on wave clear, but they're looking for another possible pick. The Ash Arrow is back available. If they could land another big hit onto Senkux, then they can just continue to buy time, which is really what they're relying on right now.
Look at the cooldowns. Look at the summoner spells available from Misfits. They can't afford to take a fight right now. Cacao, Alfari, Power of Evil, and Ignar. No flashes up or available. It's risky business the last minute of this Baron buff. Have to respect the potential for Splyce to just force a fight here.
Yeah, this is the key wave right here. Something needs to break open, whether it's a bot lane inhibitor or some cooldowns being wasted from Misfits because they're under so much pressure.
Slow, steady siege. The cannon creep ticking down 44 seconds, but it may just have enough time to break through this on its own. Guz going to have backup from the side of Splyce. They throw out a few cooldowns. They push them back. They break the tower. Looks good for Splyce.
Yeah, both AD carries made a gentleman's agreement to completely waste their ultimates. I believe Splyce in the advantage because Wunder has the push and the flank, and now we see Equalizer.
Moving charge coming in, lands onto Ignar. He's the sacrificial lamb. Wunder continuing to dish out damage on the backside, but Alfari is unafraid. Stranglethorns comes out, buys a bit of time. Misfits pulling back. They're going to have to give up another inhibitor. They're just desperate to get anything back, but Wunder, he's still hungry for blood. D-Mounts is safe for now. Pocket pistol to safety, gets stunned up, but there's no follow-up, and Hansama just barely survives getting deleted.
The damage is still done though. Splyce, they get themselves 2 inhibitors and they do not lose a single member. GA is still even available for Trashy, and Misfits, they cannot find the fight that they wanted. They do not get to stall any longer. And Splyce, they maintain control.
But now Splyce cannot afford to throw the game anymore because now it'll be 2 kind of inhib lanes pushing in, which means if Misfits get another good fight somehow, a lot of farm will find their way. And this gold gap, obviously some people are reaching the point of full build. Not to say Splyce isn't tremendously far ahead, but hopefully no more hubris from them and a clean finish.
Short of another inhibitor, you don't really get any further ahead than this, or a Baron buff or an Elder Dragon, but it's just the icing on the cake at this point for Splyce. Still have their eyes set on the Elder Dragon, hoping for one last buff to finish this series out, finish this game out rather. Series still well underway, but moving to match point could be all too crucial.
Cacao, he doesn't have flash, but he does have ultimate. The possibility of a steal is there. Here comes the TP from Alfari.
Alfari on the way in, Equalizer up, available. Splyce backing off.
Yeah, they got a cooldown. What they can do right now is reset, put Wunder on the side lane, and wait for the lanes to push. So many teams, they buy into the forced play where you need to make something happen. But do you really, though, if you're Splyce? Can you not wait for mid and bottom lane to push, send Wunder to the top lane potentially, and then just teleport into a fight? You just got Rengar ultimate for free, and now it's showing restraint, I think, which is a really good quality from Splyce. And they force Misfits to group up for them starting the Nasher versus a Skled who could flank on the Skrull.
There is no front line, there is no back line. Splyce have the pincer if they want. It's going to require some divisive fighting coming in from Misfits. They turn their side, turn their attentions.
But the game is not played on this Elder. The game is played in the base. Look at the mini-map right now. 2 massive waves going in, and Wunder is teleporting in for the back door. Splyce are not letting Misfits base.
Oh, looking for the hero play. Misfits, they're too busy looking for the fight. They're too busy looking for glory. They don't respect that if you take the Nexus, you take the game. And Wunder, he sets it up. He knocks it down. It's going to be the 2-0 for Splyce.
What a beautiful instruction on how to play macro from Splyce. I think they're really bringing it together again. They looked so lost early in the season. We had written them off. They came into the season on the same tier as G2. Perspective do so well, and then we were utterly disappointed with them. But it's plays like this, the manner in which they handle that Elder Dragon, what really convinced us in the first place to put them that high.
We talked about it earlier on into the game where Splyce just looked like they're on another level compared to Misfits right now. They are struggling to know how to deal with these mid-game decisions. They're barely getting any kind of early game leads, even with having 2 pushing lanes this time around. And it just seems that Misfits, their champion pools are being targeted, their playstyle is being targeted, and Splyce are just demolishing.
And when we look back, talking to Trashy on the desk, he was humble. He said, hey, if there's any team I think maybe we can take down in the top 4, I think Misfits. I think we could probably have a solid matchup. He is dominating Misfits right now. This is clean play coming in from Splyce overall. And they're 1 game away from taking down a 3-0 from a team that is technically ahead of them in the standings.
This is such a comfortable position for them to have these like in-between game talks in too, right? Yamata can go over the list, guys, where did we fail? And he can list 3 instances or 2 maybe that were so clearly a mistake. And then he's done. And he can pat them on the back and he's like, guys, that was great. Misfits, they have about, what, 10, 15 minutes to go over everything. The basics, the fundamentals, and the draft.
Definitely a tough spot to be. Misfits find themselves with their backs against the wall here in this series. Let's send it over to the analyst desk for a closer look at Game 2.
Thank you very much, Drakos. And yes, well, Splyce, they find themselves in match point, semi-final point, and Hamburg point. And it seems that the Misfits can't find any answers against the boys in black and yellow until now. And let's travel back to what we said in the beginning of the show. Will it be that jungle matchup? Will it be Wonder and Trashy? It seems like to me that it is just Splyce's superior macro that is controlling these games. Do you guys agree? And what exactly are they doing so well? Maybe starting with Max.
Well, the thing about Splyce is they identify what objective they want and they just know what to do to get it. They work well as a team. All 5 of them are exactly on the same page. But if you compare it to Misfits, there's like they sometimes make the wrong decisions, don't know when to give up objectives, and they're just doing the wrong things on the map. Some people are split up. It's just really unorganized by them.
Yeah, I think actually we can just pull up this replay that kind of demonstrates exactly what you talked about, how when it comes to Misfits, like if you look at this big map now, you can see top lane is pushing in. This is Splyce who set up this like slow push a while ago. This now means for Splyce they just have to care about this mid tower, because at some point Misfits have to send someone to defend the top side and then mid tower will die. So what you're gonna see now is Splyce have kind of put Misfits in the corner, and Misfits have basically only one way out.
Yeah, so Misfits really, there's only 2 things they can do. The one they chose to do, which was more aggressive and I'd say riskier, is to engage on them and force a fight. Splyce kind of know this, but don't respect it as much. And but still Wonderwear comes mid lane instead of pushing out that bot lane and joins the team just in case they do engage. And here in the replay, you'll see Hansama is going to fire the arrow to look for an engage.
Yes. Yeah, we can roll it out.
Exactly, we just roll out. And important to highlight, as you said, you know, Wonder could have just gone pushing, found his own lane. Like, no, he knows a fight will happen. It's the way out for Misfits if they want to try and defend tower. And as soon as he's, you know, near the team, engage happens, it's a 5-on-5. But this is a 5-on-5 where Misfits are already pretty far down in gold. So the other option, obviously, for Misfits would have been to sacrifice the tower.
Yeah, it would have been to sacrifice the tower, collect that top wave, because they actually missed a bit of that top wave, so they missed out XP and gold. What they could have done, is give up on the tower and then reset before Splyce, and then suddenly they have the advantage. They can go out, make the plays on the map, make the catches, try to get the towers. But because they committed to defending that tower and failed, it just made the situation a whole lot worse.
Yeah, and in the end, Splyce get off to a great fight here again. Now, I want to ask you guys, has every successful Misfits pickoff or team fight over the last 2 games been because of Splyce overstepping and making a mistake? Have you seen them make any or a lot of aggressive moves, proactive moves, even in terms of macro?
We have not seen Misfits through macro force Splyce into like a really bad situation. It's been Splyce who's been controlling, especially the minion waves. It's not very interesting, very sexy in many ways, but like this game is literally built around pushing lanes. And Splyce are consistently in 2 games now able to push at least 2 lanes. They have 2 winning lanes every single time. And that gives them like control to go set up vision, to roam, to, you know, create picks or threaten towers, all because they managed to control these waves so well. And Misfits are sitting so far back on the map. And I think a lot of it also comes down to the bans. Like, I think Yamato Cannon and Splyce are doing a really good job here, and they target Power Vivo with 3 mid laners. Orianna, Ahri, LeBlanc take away the Syndra. Power Vivo has no counter pick for it. He doesn't play Echo. And then they also target the Lee Sin. And Kakao without Lee Sin is just not able to do anything.
And we know that Splyce, they have the tools to just do this over and over again. So I want to ask you, Max, if you're in the position of Misfits now, who have lost these 2 games, and you're getting choked out in the macro sense, isn't that like the most kind of frustrating way to lose, so to say? Because you can't say, oh, I overstepped there, that's why we lost. I lost my lane matchup, I did that wrongly. It is really just getting completely kind of pushed out of the map one by one.
I think if I'm Misfits right now and the opposing team is clearly better than me in macro, you just have to do something either outside of the book that they won't expect during the game, or you just go for something that snowballs, something that can make plays, and try to just snowball a early game and just win the game like that.
I think that's so interesting, because every time we talk about, even in Roccat and the losing streak, or lower tier teams that aren't doing that well, we say, well, just pick early and make it happen. And it's the same, it seems, for our top place teams.
Yeah, I mean,
it's simple.
That's the thing. If you're bottom team and you can't play macro against the top team, you are in Misfits situation right now. I'm not calling Misfits a bottom team, but they are stuck in that situation. They can't win the game through pure map plays. So I agree. Like, I actually want to see Power Vivo early pick something like Syndra. Yes, okay, you might get a counter pick like Echo or something against it, but you can still control the lane as Power Vivo. He has not been able to do almost anything in the laning phase for 2 games now. Yeah. And that means whenever you lose mid, if you want to play side lanes, that's not happening, because then the mid laner from the enemy team is roaming first, and it's going to prevent you from playing the side lanes.
And we got to highlight also Senkux is someone that we haven't really seen super step up over the course of the split. We had some question marks. He did have a good game now, and even though it wasn't always the best moves, he went in there, he flashed forward, he roamed bottom in a couple of instances and tried to get those kills, which is something that is a sign on the wall for me that Splyce as a whole is on the same page.
He's extremely comfortable in Syndra. He's not being challenged in the matchups, and that's why that pick needs to either get banned or moved over to Power Vivo to give some more early pressure for Misfits.
All right, you guys both said Splyce were going to win the series, and they are at match point now. What do you want to see from Misfits, and can they pull this back, Max?
I want to hopefully see Kakao on something that can help snowball. With Rengar, you can kind of punish the enemy jungler, but when it comes to punishing lanes, it's a lot harder than Elise or Lee. And I'd like to see Power Vivo on Syndra, as Deficio said. So maybe not first pick Rengar, but first pick Syndra, or first pick something else that can actually do something, since Splyce haven't really shown priority in Rengar. I don't think Trashy is like the best Rengar player, but it's just Yamato, they're playing into Yamato's hands. They know he's going to pick Rengar.
But is it going to happen? Can Misfits come back? Yes.
I mean, this is the time to change up the draft. And yes, then go for that gamble, because as you just said, Yamato kind of wants them to pick Rengar. He's like, please, Kakao, pick Rengar. It's not working for you. He was first picked this game. Another world, they banned the Rengar himself and first pick Elise. And then suddenly you actually have early pressure from Kakao.
So is Splyce taking it here or not?
Splyce is definitely taking it.
All right.
If Misfits have heard the analyst desk, maybe Misfits take this next game.
They got to change up that draft.
We will see what happens. This is what Splyce and Misfits have been working for all split. Their fight for a spot in the semifinals continues in Game 3. Don't go anywhere.
Will Splyce advance to match point? Can Misfits strike back? Find out here. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. Game 2.
Top lane up far. He's taking a lot of damage.
Leap in, Trashy. All too easy. Out comes the arrow. Copy says, I'll pick that one up. Top side of the map, a massive three-way building, but they've got a fight in their eyes. Equalizer goes down. Copy, he can't flash to safety. He's on the way, but the whole team turns. It's not enough for Wonder. He's all alone, and he may still drop. Gets dismounted, tries to lead back. Pocket pistol, not enough. Kakao gonna take him down, but in comes Senkux. Maybe looking for a hero play. Moves forward. Kakao still so low. Out comes the ultimate.
He was looking for both of them.
The Master Chefs may be coming out, but they've got their eyes on a different prize. Moving in. Hansama still alive for now, but does get taken down. Trashy, oh, so low, but PoE gets pocket pistoled.
And I feel like that's just going to be... Oh, Senkux, he does get hit!
Forward, Senkux locked up and taken down! Does get the ult off, but Power of Evil going to live in the end. That's a pick to start it off. Mickey now the guy on the sideline, slowed up, locked down, and knocked out. Alfari gets a kill back. Splyce overstep. And Wonder, he sets it up. He knocks it down. It's going to be the 2-0 for Splyce.